What's up, everybody? Happy Monday night. Today is September 11th, 2023. This is Across the Pitch. I am back this week after a much-needed break last Monday. I am Mike Barrera. I'm joined by my two buddies above me on your screen, Jose on my right and Dave on my left. Dave, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good watching Monday Night Football, although it's been slightly ruined already. But I mean, no, the Eagles are 1. Hey, I mean, the Eagles are 1-0. Joe's got back to winning ways, so I'm good.
I love it. How about yourself, Jose? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It was a lot of fun to catch international games this week. It was also fun to learn about being able to cover the game on October 17th at the link where Mexico and Germany will be facing each other. So I'll be there. AAT Sports will be covering that match. And honestly, I don't know. Folks that I've told have sort of told me that's a big deal, but it's still kind of surreal, right? Like it's international soccer that I'm covering for the first time. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm super excited.
It's kind of a big deal. Yes, it's been full. First of all, the Eagles are 1-0. So, Dave, to your point, right? It was a bit of a nerve-wracking win yesterday, but
Yep.
still 1-0. Can't complain. The Union are on break right now for international duty, hence the name of the episode. We do have some Union news floating around, though, with Jesus Bueno's injury, and of course, leading up to the Cincinnati match. So, without further ado, let's talk about what we last saw from last week. We had Todd Lewis on the show, so real quick, thanks Todd for covering for me again. I
Big ups to
apologize.
Todd.
I apologize I couldn't make it, but Jose, you're now 2 weeks past your Kai Wagner news situation. Has life come down for you since all that mayhem?
Yeah, in a way, right? My phone's back to normal. I don't even know what it ended. I know last I checked, the interactions on it were somewhere in the 170,000 level. So it is what it is. It's cool, But I must admit, got a lot of kind messages from people across sort of like the space that we work in, right? And I say work in air quotes, but like other reporters asking like, how did you get him to say that? Or actually even today, and I know we're going to talk about Jesus Bueno, people sending me DMs with tips. So sort of doing some of that work now, I guess, where someone had told me, I know you've been wondering about Jesus. He's actually back in town. But I couldn't corroborate it. So it's kind of cool to start getting some of that. So it goes without saying, if you ever have a thought or something that, you can't share, I'm always, anonymity is number one. You can always trust that and believe in that. So reach out if you ever have anything you want to share.
I love it. And also, last time I was at the Union game, I got this new shirt that they have, the little Doom themed shirt. So for those who can't really see it, I got this new thing. I know Kyle and Jillian had this show on display on their show, the one team we agree on. So again, shout out to them. I hung out with them before the match where I got to beat the crap out of that bull, which was a lot of fun. But again, that's going 2 weeks back now. So Jesus Bueno, for those who don't know, had some sort of knee injury during training right before his first appearance. Now, he wasn't obviously on the roster at all then for the first match, correct?
He wasn't. So my understanding is that he was at practice and right before their flight to Barranquilla and injured himself. Tests were ongoing. Both federations actually lent a hand to figure out the testing. And I guess it was bad enough, when injuries are bad enough and teams realize that you're not going to be really supplying a whole lot in terms of, experience or productivity to an international camp. If the injury is bad enough, they will send you home. And that's what happened. When did Jesus get back to Chester, Philadelphia? I'm not sure, but he did post today on, was it Instagram? Yeah, it was Instagram, with a bag of ice on his right knee, doing solitary training all by himself inside of the Power something training facility there. Right off of Lot C. And again, that person who reached out to me had mentioned it right after that report came out that it was probably going to be a departure, but I couldn't corroborate. So sorry, just trying to get it right. I didn't want to put out something that I would have to backtrack on. So I wish that person automatically gets on my list of approved people from now on.
Well, we also had some slight scare with Andre Blake as well, because he wasn't in his lineup for Jamaica. Now, I know people have floated around that he has some flu-like symptoms, so he looks like he's okay. But of course, anytime we hear of symptoms regarding some sort of illness. We think
Yeah.
back of the COVID year, right? When
That's exactly
the whole lineup got wiped out with COVID. So Andre Blake. Now, when's their next match with Jamaica, or did they already take care of business?
No, they play tomorrow against Haiti at 8 p.m. You can catch that game on Paramount Plus. He was pictured at training. I think I posted that picture this morning. The Jamaican Federation posted an image with him, and I actually had to send the picture to 3 or 4 people to double check. Like, is that guy with dreads, with cornrows, braided hair? Is that Andre Blake, the one in red? Obviously a goalkeeper. And it took 3 eyes to make me realize, yes, it is, and I can just trust my gut a little bit more. But again, trying to get it right and not mess this up.
Well, yeah, I mean, the injury bug in general is going around. I mean, we have, Bueno now with a knee issue. Bedoy suspended for the Cincinnati match. Blake, of course, he's fine now. He'll be better after some Dayquil and whatnot. But we also have to worry about Daniel Gazdag and his knee issue. Now, Dave, I know. Did you watch the Rebel match live, or did you watch it after the fact, Dave?
So I watched the full game after the fact. Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was an enjoyable watch. I was saying the score, but it was enjoyable to see the Union sort of take some form of control against a team that they should be comfortably beating, which perhaps we haven't seen as often this season.
No, exactly. I mean, what are your thoughts on Gazdag? With us possibly having a short bench, Leon Flock's already out. How do you think that this team can keep up with Cincinnati? Even though they're missing Acosta, you're still going to be down possibly Gazdag, even if he's not 100%,
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, I think, of course. Since they haven't actually been the best form as we've all seen over recent weeks, they've been very susceptible to inconsistency, which is obviously seeing the gap not exactly extend because, again, they've been so inconsistent as well. But I don't know. I think, of course, Acosta's probably been their star man this year, and I think he's probably in the front running, or at least a front runner for the MVP, if not the front runner. I think he's got 10 goals, 10 assists this year, which I think, along with Gazdag's the only other player to achieve that feat so far. So again, argue, of course, probably Acosta's probably been the better player, but 2 players that could certainly be in the MVP running at the end of the season. Both teams missing is obviously going to not only hurt the quality of the game, but I mean, it might end up perhaps helping in the Union's favour, because I know, of course, as good as Gazdag can be, I think Acosta's probably a more influential player. If you probably compared the two, I think the Union probably could get away with not having Gazdag in the team, with Quinn Sullivan, coming in. He can offer something a bit different. I'm not going to suggest Torres, because that would be stupid. But but I think, putting Sullivan in there, or there are definitely options that the Union have that can. Even, I mean, you might even see a front 3. You might even see a Carranza in the middle, Uar in the middle, and Carranza and Baribo either side. Maybe, I don't know. There are definitely options there. I think the Union probably might miss Gazdag less than Cincinnati will miss Acosta. Although I think that's not downplaying how important Gazdag is to the team.
Well, also, you have to think about, too, this break really did come at the right time for the team. I mean, even if Bueno's injury, if you look at it, well, he's got a knee issue. It's at least he has a week and a half to recover, to kind of heal up. But the thing with Gazdag is just now it's a second knee issue in the past, month, right? When was the first time he hurt his knee, Jose? About a month ago, give or take? It was at home.
Yeah, I forget. It was Leagues Cup, wasn't it? It was right before the semifinal, or maybe it was right before the semifinal where he buckled his knee, I think. It's interesting. I like to think that the time he got back to heal with not going to the Hungarian national team hopefully was well spent, and heating and icing that knee, getting some I wouldn't even put him jogging. I would just put him on a bike for 4 or 5 days to keep his fitness up. So I'm interested. I know that we're gonna have a press conference soon, probably Thursday. Match day -2. I would think that's typically when they do them. I'm excited to hear who's healthy and who's not, and crossing our fingers tomorrow with Jamaica playing, so Blake and Lowe, Israel playing Taribo, Martinez playing at 6:45, and then Olivia Mbizo representing Cameroon against Burundi. So hopefully no more bodies pick up the injury bug, and we can just have 3 matches until the next international break, right? 2 or 3 matches. Then we go into the mid-October international break again. We're getting back into that cycle. And it was actually kind of weird to though I don't know. Do you guys think that Leagues Cup month was a bit of a blur?
It feels like it was a long month, and yet it feels like it was so long ago as well.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
it came and went. I'm like, oh wow, that was a fast, yet also very long month. I just hate how much soccer these guys are playing. It's not just people that are of value like Jose Martinez. We all kind of agreed with as well. I think Kyle had mentioned to me, somebody I talked to on last Saturday. It was, I'm kind of glad Martinez is suspended for this match because we could use him to just take a break every now and then. Because Jose's been playing a lot, you know? Same thing with Daniel. As much as we like to see our players go away for international duty, they're already going to hit 54, 55 games this year. Now you're adding all their international duty games on top of that. And at least Olivier gets a break with Nathan Harriel, but Daniel doesn't, you know?
Yeah. And that's what I was going to sort of touch upon, right? I asked Mikel Lua after the DC game, granted he was tired and leaning on a chair, how's your body holding up? You're playing all of these matches and, what is your appetite to continue to do this? And of course he's in a position, literal field position where he's actually going through a lot of competition now with Ty and Carranza and throw in Sullivan, whoever you want, Donovan, competition for minutes. But then we have other positions across the field that maybe that depth isn't there anymore, right? With Flock, Bueno picking up injuries here and there, Gastag picking up an injury. So I think this is, Mikel's comment was, this is the way it is in Europe, right? You have the league, you have, let's think of England, you have the league. You have the Carabao Cup. I don't know what they call it anymore. I know it's changed names a couple of times. Dave knows this. Then you have the Champions League, and pepper in the FA Cup, and you have 3 or 4 competitions running at all times. So
they still don't play as many games as the teams in the third, fourth, and fifth division. But they still
and there you go. So it's still a lot. So Mikel Lua was kind of like, this is what I'm used to. Granted, Bromby wasn't in the Champions League or anything like that. He was still understanding of all the competitions, and his body was sort of ready for it. So he said. But you also got to think about this load of games has to be among many other things, including that little Argentine out in Miami, to sort of lead to changes, right? And roster building, right? Because when you think about this many matches, you think about top European teams that have oodles of money or bigger pockets than most American teams to go and buy depth. So then you have one roster for Carabao Cup, you have another roster for the FA Cup, you have another roster for your regular league season. So I wonder if this is going to be again another point of conversation when it comes to ownership deciding, yes, we need to figure it out if we're going to be successful among all competitions and give every single team a fair chance.
And also, Kyle also chimes in. So Kyle from the one team we agree on says, he is the best 6 in the league, so it's a gamble to rest him. And that's where someone like Bueno comes in, who's, obviously can fill in that role pretty well. And even just Curtin getting creative with Bedoya and McGlynn in that double pivot in the front, which he used pretty successfully. So the amount of games is obviously troubling. But I wonder, I don't know. I know Miami had a run of injuries. I don't know how many other teams are dealing with the same problems the Union are. It doesn't feel like they are, but maybe I'm just not paying attention enough to other teams. But I mean, Dave, from your perspective out in England with Gillingham, do they play anywhere near as many games as we are this season? Because I feel like they're not. They still just following your accounts every week.
Yeah, we've played 10 games. We've played 10 games this season already, I think.
And how long does your season run till?
Until May. So we'll play 46 league games. And then on top of that, we're guaranteed to play at least one game in the Carabao and FA Cup, which takes you up to 48. Yeah. And then you've got to play 3 games in the Pointless Trophy called the FL Trophy. That takes you up to 51 games. So bear in mind, again, like you have the best teams in the country, in the world, moaning because they have to play 38 games on top of maybe another 8 or 9 games or whatever. The teams, and bear in mind, they've got the best budgets, the best squads, the best players, the best academies. Mm-hmm. You've got players with the clubs with the absolute bare minimum playing as many games or if not more. So I think it was a point last year, we played 23 games by the time the Premier League had played like 10 or 11 games.
Jesus Christ.
Which is like ridiculous. Like, so again, you sort of see like the rich and the best moaning. But yeah, I mean, again, like perhaps in the MLS it's a different issue where like, I mean, again, you're not like stopping the whole season to play a direct competition alongside it. I don't know. I think it's a weird one because, of course, again, in the middle of the season, we've sort of seen with some teams with the Leagues Cup where they got eliminated after like 3 days and then they didn't play for like another month. So again, I think it's the best of both worlds, really, isn't it? But I think again, looking at like the close schedule though, like so the Union from this weekend in the space of 3 weeks will play, I believe, 7 games.
Were they really?
So they'll play 17th. They'll play Cincinnati. 21st. They basically play Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday between now and up to
October or something.
October 8th, and then they have the international break. But I mean, at least there is actually a break now, and the Union don't actually have to play during these international windows. Where again, they're without Andre Blake, they're without Olivier Mbazo, Daniel Gazdag. I mean, that could be something that also works in the Union's favour. Because I know we sit there and say, okay, yeah, it's frustrating that these other teams perhaps will also get their best players back when you play, but you sort of think, look at how important, as we've seen, how important that Andre Blake is to this team, and you could probably argue in the game against Orlando this year. I think Bendick had a bit of a howler for one of the goals.
Just a bit.
Against Orlando, the 2-1 defeat. You think if Andre Blake was there, he probably doesn't make that mistake, and it's a different game. And Jose Martinez is playing in that 6 role instead of Leon Flack, who's being thrusted into a position he hasn't played in pretty much a year practically. So he was always hosing that role. Do you know what I mean? It's a sort of a bit of a snowball effect. So I think it probably could work in the Union's favour better than perhaps other teams. Because I know, as we sort of, no disrespect to this roster, you look at sort of. You look at perhaps the difference in quality between certain positions. Like there was a massive drop off between Andre Blake and your backup goalkeeper. There's a massive drop off between Jose Martinez and your next holding midfielder. Even like as reliable certain players as Bueno and Flack can be when they do get a run of games. There's a big. I mean, again, like Gazdag's so important to the way the team plays. I mean, no, just like again, I sort of said at the top of the show, I don't like contradict myself, but there's still a big drop off between Gazdag and Quinn Sullivan and Joaquin Torres. Although I think that Quinn Sullivan perhaps can offer you something a bit different, but I think again, do you know what I mean? Like perhaps there isn't that sort of difference among perhaps some of the more well-off squads in the MLS.
Well, so that's where you're going to see if Gazdag is injured or doesn't play on Saturday. The versatility of somebody like Baribo or even McGlynn. I mean, I think we've seen McGlynn the 10 once this season.
I think so, yeah.
And he's gotten to the point now where he's getting so good on the ball with distributing. You kind of are curious if you can give it a chance. I mean, it's not like he's, Gazdag has this blazing speed that McGlynn does not have. Really, they're both distributors, just they're in different parts of the field. But of course, it's harder to place Daniel. Jose, your thoughts?
No, I was sort of gonna comment on Dave's point, right?
Yeah.
We had a competition stop the entire league for, was it literally a month, right?
It was a month, yeah.
Yeah. And I know I asked the question to just about every player that I talked to, including Mexican players, as well as our own players and players from other teams, whether or not they felt like this was worth it. And, this was in front of cameras, but also microphones and other bodies. But I'd be really intrigued, and I hope I get an opportunity, just sort of off the record or on background type of situation, right? And ask them, was the monetary gain worth it? Like did you feel like that was worth it? And I'd be curious to really hear their answer when they don't have a PR person next to them or in the room. Like was it really worth, if you are a Daniel Gazdag, who's a proven player in this team, to go out and play the whatever 7 games that we ended up playing in a month? Was that really worth the however many thousands of dollars you got? I don't know. I'm really intrigued.
Well, also, I was thinking about it too. I know somebody had mentioned the playoff picture, and essentially, let's say a team does not make the playoffs this year, or they get eliminated early, and let's say hypothetically speaking, that same team was eliminated early from Leagues Cup. Think of how much downtime some of these teams are going to have with Leagues Cup, really giving them 2.5 weeks off, 3 weeks off. Now you get an international break, and you said you have another break coming up at the end after September. And then if you get eliminated from the playoffs or you don't go far in the playoffs, you have a very long stretch before you start up again in late February. So I wonder too how that affects players in terms of just their conditioning, their bodies, how they're going to do. Let's say a team that got eliminated in Leagues Cup early on, maybe they have the energy to then make a push to the playoffs further as September rolls around. But
One team that has actually played, I think, and I'll have to count, but I'm sort of walking through the scenarios of teams that have played a lot of games this year.
Yeah.
I would think Minnesota's up there, right? They've played all the leagues games, plus they made out okay in Leagues Cup, but where they're really gaining as in adding up games to their tally would be the U.S. Open Cup, with them now going to the final. So, you pull away from one competition and sort of shove it into another. So no, I just wanted sort of like thinking in my head, like there another team who's probably going through this is Minnesota, and I can't imagine that they are as deep as we are. So just sharing that out loud.
Well, listen, speaking of Minnesota, we should probably thank them for what they did on Saturday. So at the very last minute against New England, I know, perfect segue. In the death, was it St. Clair? Their goalie had an assist off a set piece to tie the game up in the death there. So they ended up pulling out a 1-1 draw against New England, who's going through their own personal dilemmas with their coach having a series of issues. Let's leave it at that. So because of that, the table is now much closer to the second seed. Cincinnati, of course, still comfortably at 57 points. New England's at 48. Orlando is at 47. And the Union are at 46. Now, we have a game in hand over New England, actually as well over Orlando and Cincinnati as well. So really, this Saturday match not only brings us closer to the Supporter Shield lead, which of course is kind of a stretch now, but it allows us to leapfrog over New England with the game in hand. So it's a pretty significant game on Saturday. But if you look at the Union's schedule in general, I know Jim Curtin has mentioned, well, we're at home a good amount of times, and he's right. Throughout September, we are home 3 out of the 5 games, but these are a pretty tough stretch of matches. And I didn't really realize it till just now looking at the schedule again. The Union play against Cincinnati on Saturday. They travel to Charlotte, which I feel like is PTSD from last year when we got embarrassed by Charlotte. Then they host LAFC, they host Dallas, and then they travel to Columbus. Columbus, of course, being a very solid squad that we've seen so far. So these next 5 games, man, I mean, they are very tough. Dave, let's kind of those 5 games. What is your ideal or realistic point total after those 5 matches?
Again, reminded me of that Charlotte game. I think that was the game where I think LAFC either lost later early in the day, sorry, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, the Union won this! They literally all they have to do is win the last game of the season. They're going to win. They're going to win the Support Shield. And they're going to have home advantage throughout the whole playoffs." And everyone's like, "They get a result here. They're going to do this." And we just got completely embarrassed from the first minute. It was just terrible, from start to finish. I think that game. I don't know if that was how it panned out. I think it was how it panned out. I'm pretty sure AFC pretty much gave us a foot up to be like, "Oh, by the way, yeah, we're going to give you a slight chance here." Then we just completely shit the bed. And
isn't that what we always do, though, Dave? We always just shit the bed. That's the thing. So New England drops points against Minnesota, and so now, of course, it costs us down for Cincinnati. So this would be the perfect opportunity to take those points.
I feel like we shouldn't be talking too loud about it.
I know.
Well, it sounds like. So it sounds really weird, but I mean, you look at the game. I mean, Columbus are going to cause you a big issue, but I mean, Dallas as well at home. That's a tough game. It's it's a really tough stretch. I think Dallas again fighting for their lives in the playoff places. I think the 2 road games are probably the easier games, and probably Dallas as well. But they're probably the easier the games out of the 5. I think the LAFC one, PTSD again. The Union still haven't beaten LAFC. Cincinnati, last couple of games, seem to have had our number. I think 2 1-0 wins, I believe, the last 2 games, although they were in Cincinnati. But I mean, again,
go ahead.
The games that you don't really have great records in. I don't think they have, I think it's our second ever game in Charlotte. I mean, of course, last season, I believe, was the first one. I mean, yeah, it's not ideal at all, really. Ideal stretch.
If we had Charlotte at home, I'd feel a lot better with the outcome and what could possibly happen. But you're right. LAFC being in Super Park does nothing for me. Great. We don't have to go to the West Coast. I still think we draw that. Columbus, going to Columbus, we've seen us draw against Columbus a lot of times. But again, going there gives me concern. Dallas here, I can't remember the last time we even hosted Dallas at home. I mean, are we going back, 5 or 6 years? We've traveled to Dallas. We went to Dallas last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which we don't think we've even won in Dallas before, ever, if I remember.
Last time Dallas was in town was 2019.
I don't remember that at all. I mean, that was the
Never
April
happened.
6th.
was,
2-1 win
was it for us or for them?
for us.
For us, okay.
Hell
So
yeah.
again, it's concerning for me that these games mean so much, and the Union could very well drop down to the bottom tier of the playoff picture if they do not take care of those road games. So, Dave, maybe I missed. You said realistic number again for, or
I
maybe you
didn't
just
give a
didn't
number.
hear it.
I
You
was
didn't
just,
give.
I think, I
Don't you
think
try to get away from the question, Dave? I don't
Yeah,
like
he
that.
tried.
You tried.
I'm not confident.
No, it doesn't sound like you.
Jesus, Dave.
So
It
it's
sounds
15
bad, but I
points.
feel like a realistic number might be 6 points, which isn't good. But I think you look at the game against Cincinnati, I think it's going to be a tough one. I think, again, you want to win.
Yeah.
I think the Union are too far gone to win the Support Shield now. I think second place is probably what you want. Charlotte, I think they need to win that game. An AFC defeat, maybe a draw. They'll beat Dallas, I think. They might lose in Columbus with the way that they've played on the road this year at times. And again, Columbus are in and around that sort of little pack as well to come second. I think it's what four teams in that sort of hunt, aiming to come second. So I mean, again, they're going to be up for it as well. It's going to be, and I think that's probably the most frustrating thing is that the final two games. I think I don't know if you guys have given up hope of winning the Support Shield coming first, but
It's gone. Yeah, at this point.
the two games that the Union have like against teams directly around them are both on the road against Columbus and New England, which is obviously the last game of the regular season, which has big implications. I just think the way that they've played on the road this year when they needed to win on the road, they haven't perhaps turned up or given us a result that they need. So, I mean, I've not got much confidence going into those games. So I think 6 points is probably the most I'm expecting.
The Charlotte match is so Charlotte currently sits in the 11th spot. They're only 3 points behind DC. I know, Jose, you have some ties to Charlotte with Dave was Gusler, right?
Yep.
I don't know.
Gusbuster.
I don't know how much you talked to them about their team, but over the last match on September 2nd, it was a 1-1 draw against Nashville. Going back to August, they had a 1-1 draw against Orlando, a 2-1 win against LAFC. So it's not like they've performed poorly in these recent matches. They're hosting DC United before they host us as well. That's Saturday before the Wednesday trip for us. So if they beat DC United on Wednesday, then they're basically tied for that final playoff spot. And then they get to host us before traveling to Cincinnati. I mean, if you're talking about a team that's hungry to make the playoffs, that team's going to be itching to get at least a home draw.
And that's just it, right? When you think about the way that Jim speaks about our team, right? And I say our team, obviously Philadelphia.
You gotta be careful what you say.
Yeah, right. The way that Jim speaks about this team in terms of Philadelphia is that they don't do well having to chase games, but rather getting ahead and then sort of protecting, right? Because then teams have to open up. The way I see a lot of this, the rest of this schedule or the next five, right? Cincinnati. That could be, hopefully we steal a win, but you think about Charlotte, Dallas, Columbus, I would say that's very much like Cincinnati, right? They have no reason to go all out for it. They could tie or win, and that's totally fine. But the other teams that are there, LAFC as well, you think about the Charlotte match, specifically, that's a team that needs to go out for it, much like DC needed to go out for it against us at DC.
Yeah.
That means that teams are not going to be able to lock up and hope for the best, especially if they're at home, right? You would think that Charlotte would give it their all at home on one of the few turf fields still in the MLS, right? So I would think that, you look at those next 5 games, and I would probably say that I'm actually maybe more confident than you both, but I think that we sneak away with a win against Cincinnati.
I like how you say sneak away with a win at home. That's how much confidence you have.
Well, listen, the other thing to remember, this Cincinnati game, September 16th, this could be the winner decides, or the winner gets Kai Wagner type of match, right? It's the sweepstakes,
right?
Hopefully we win in Charlotte. I think we'll lose to LAFC. I think we will beat Dallas, and then we will lose Columbus. So what did I say? 2 losses and 3 wins?
Yes,
maybe a tie. Yeah.
That's 9 points.
9 points, I think, is probably very realistic for this stretch.
I'm writing these down, by the way, especially Dave's ridiculous answer of what you said. 5.
Yeah, Dave's got like 7. Points. What did he say? 3 points, 5 points,
6 points. I said 6 points. But I think for me, like the only reliable win I can see is the Dallas game. I think the thing is, I could easily see the Union going 1 win, 3 draws, 1 defeat.
I
That
think
wouldn't
you
shock
guys
me.
are underrating Dallas a little bit. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I just think again that they've got to come to Subaru Park. I mean,
So
Wait, did Ferreira leave, or is he still there?
I think
I
he's
thought he
still
was
there.
still there. So
But I
here's
think,
There were rumors of him departing, but I don't know what came of it because I think he was sick scratches last couple of games. I think they were sort of weighing in a move, but I'll search while you go on.
So here's the standings for the West, since we're obviously handling a couple Western Conference teams. St. Louis is still in first place. Good for them. Seattle's in second place at 41. LAFC's in third place, rather, with 40 points. And then Dallas is in ninth place at 34. So Dallas desperately needs a win, too. They're only 3 points behind San Jose. And they're only 1 point in front of Austin. So the next team, even LA Galaxy, who have 30 points, are only 4 points back from the playoff picture. The only team realistically out of the playoffs is Colorado in the Western Conference. Eastern Conference, you'd say probably Toronto at 22 points. But if you look at LA's schedule more specifically here, you have LAFC hosting LA Galaxy on Saturday the 16th. They travel to St. Louis, and then they travel to Philly afterwards. So they have a pretty good stretch of games as well. It's not like they have a cakewalk. By the time they get to Philly, they might be exhausted from playing LA Galaxy and St. Louis, and very heated competitions that will very much determine some of the Western Conference playoff picture there. So that might benefit us because by the time we get them, they might have some jet lag and some wear and tear. But what was I going to say? The Columbus game, they aren't too far off as well. So again, there's a lot of issues here. Now let's talk about the lineup, though. Let's say Daniel Gazlag plays. We know Bedoya is going to be out. We know Bueno is probably going to be on the shelf as well. Dave, what is your lineup looking at on Saturday night?
I think again, of course, there were obviously doubts about Gazdag playing. I mean, of course, I don't think he went with Hungary on international duty today. I think he stayed at home. So again, I think that's probably a huge positive that he's had an extended period to sit at home and recuperate. With the union medical staff. So I think that might be. I wouldn't be shocked if he's trending towards starting. Looking at the lineup, I'll probably go. Blake and goal will be the obvious option. Right back, I'd be interested to see if the Union go the back five. I don't know how Cincinnati have been lining up this year in terms of. I think have they gone to more like a traditional 4-2-3-1 or my.
We'll check it out for you right now.
Jose,
do you know off the top of your head?
No, it turns out they're still playing with that 3-4-1-2 sort of formation. Yep. So I'd be interested to see if maybe Jim goes with the back five again, just to match them up man for man at home. Maybe I think maybe just with the way that not only the way that Cincinnati have played Union the last couple of games, but perhaps the Union might be worried about the overloads out wide with the wing backs to try and cut. So they might go with a bit more width to counteract it. So wouldn't shock me with Harry at right wing back. The usual three at centre backs, and again with Kai Wagner being a doubt, we might end up seeing Harry at left wing back and Bizo at right wing back. So it's as strange as it sounds. The trust in Matt Real seemingly diminished in recent week, the last few months.
He's vanished over the past month. I can't remember the last time he actually played. I think it was that one game he played on the left and he just disappeared. Remember that he got taken out the 50th, 60th minute, and that was the last we saw of Matt Real. He kind of just worked himself out of lineup.
I think that was the interesting thing that I think we sort of alluded to the League's Cup, and I think Jose, you sort of mentioned how many teams have probably played their best players and run their best starters into the ground during that competition. I really thought some of the MLS teams would have given the chance to some more fringe players to try and earn an opportunity, in that first.
Bueno.
Yeah, so obviously Bueno was that one player, but more players like Matt Real, Quinn Sullivan, even a Torres to get a run out in games. Even in that third place game, I know it was big because you could qualify for this Champions Cup of CONCACAF magic and stuff like that. It's going to be called next year. But
last game, Matt Real played significant minutes. It would be the Querétaro game, first time around, 25 minutes.
But do you know what I mean? I feel like
significant.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That sort of game, I feel like I'm surprised Union didn't use the tournament as more of an opportunity to give younger players or more fringe players a chance to impress.
Well, to kind of go back to what Jose and I talked about probably 2 months ago, who is Jim Curtin and who are the Union to say, we don't have to take this tournament seriously. We can just kind of half-ass it and not really, we don't really have a choice. We have to win something this year. And Leagues Cup was theoretically the best chance we probably could have had of doing so. I don't think if Messi was on Miami, we would have missed the final. We probably would have gone and hosted the final.
I mean, you're right. I mean, especially after beating them 3 weeks earlier, 4-1 at home.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think Curtin looked at this as like we need to at least contend. We have to win something. Let's go give it our chance. And also going back to the last time we played, what's it called? Cincinnati. That's when we traveled to Cincy. This is going all the way back to April 8th. Is that the last time we played them?
I think so. Was that was that when we got a red card and it was the Union subs? Then wasn't that during an international break?
Yes. So we had our starters were we had a Bueno starting for Bedoya, Donovan started for Ua, Sullivan started for Gazdag, and we only lost 1-0, and it was a 69th minute penalty from Acosta that really beat us. I remember Jim had kind of, or I think their coach had kind of highlighted, listen, we beat the B team for the Union, but barely at home. So there was some concern early in the season, but again, that was so far back now, it doesn't really count anymore. So in terms of the lineup from me, I think you have to go with Ua and Carranza. I would like to see Baribo earlier in the match, maybe to even give Carranza a break because he never gets it to take a chance to get a break. But I don't think Curtin's going to do that, especially with him kind of preaching recently. He's still in preseason form. You're probably going to see Baribo first one off the bench. I thought he played very well in his brief time that he did play. I know it wasn't really much of an impact because they were winning 4-1, but still, I thought he played fine. Jose, any thoughts on the midfield on your end with Bedoya being suspended?
I think we'll see a Jack McGlynn, and I think Jim will have to get creative. I don't know how he would. I don't know. Maybe this is where a Sullivan sort of situation. I don't know how you do a Sullivan and Gazdag at the same time. But I guess the way I envision it is obviously barring any injuries, seeing a Blake in the back, Low, Elliott, Glesnes, back three, Kai, McGlynn, Sullivan, Harriel, or Mbaizo. That one's a coin flip nowadays. I really don't know what Jim's going to decide there.
Sorry, was it a 2-game ban for Jose Martinez?
For Bueno?
Oh, yeah, Martinez is doesn't he have card issues or no? Is he back?
I think he might be back. So he didn't play the Red Bulls game.
Oh shit! Okay, yeah, there you go. Then Martinez starts. Sorry, I for some reason thought he was out. Yeah, so then McGlynn Martinez, let McGlynn be more. Well, I don't know how they're going to work that out, but I would think that he would be the next one up. Then you have Gazdag, Ua, Carranza, and hopefully we see some tie game time tomorrow for Israel. He did not feature the first match for them,
I don't think we've seen McGlynn and Martinez together in front of the back three, have we? Would this be their first chance? Because I know we've seen McGlynn and Bedoya. I know we've seen Bueno and Martinez. I don't think we've seen McGlynn and Martinez in the double pivot before, which is fine with me because I think that's your best playmaker out of the back as well as your best, six in the attacking defensive player.
At that point, you just tell Martinez, you're just a firefighter this game. You don't bother, just stop everything. Let the ball run through Jack, right? Find Jack, let him distribute because, I mean, we've seen Martinez take runs and I know Dave has alluded to it a couple of times in the show, but when Martinez goes forward, it's him making solo runs rather than unlocking, space for someone else or finding a pass for someone else. It's sort of him just going wild on the right side. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see how this works out.
Also, I was going to say, I think this is the second of a 3-game ban for Bueno as well. So I don't even know if him being fit would even matter. Because I think, I don't know if it's the same in America, but I think, is it a 3-game suspension for violent conduct?
I remember posting the last bit of the fallout from the New York Red Bulls match that I got from the league, and there was no mention of the red card, but Sean Nealis's, undisclosed fine for not leaving the field in I don't know how you describe it in English.
In a timely manner.
In a timely manner, I guess is probably the best way. In Spanish, it automatically it straight up translates to effective way. So I don't know. That's another question for Jim. I mean, we have so many to ask him about this roster coming off of an international break with so many questions and going into it, honestly, with so many questions that I wish he would have had a conference last week.
I was going to say, this probably feels like the episode where we don't have a whole lot to talk about because we don't know a lot of information. We are still missing so many questions on what's Buenos Aires, what's Gaza. We feel like we should have had this episode on Friday compared to today, because I sat down in the studio like right before we signed. I'm like, what did we talk about tonight? Because there's just nothing really.
Well, we've talked for 40 minutes, so we've done
exactly.
something.
We've managed to fill the void. So, all right. So, listen, I know for the point total, Jose, Dave, you had mentioned 6. Jose, you said 9. I feel like 9 is probably where I'm going to have to agree with. I don't think it's as low as 6. If it's as low as 6, you're probably talking about the Union being like a 6th seed team in the playoffs, which is probably means an early exit.
It's such a double-edged sword, right? Because the higher you go, being a 1 or a 2 this year seems like such a dangerous thing, especially when you think about the
Miami
monster that Miami has become, right? 12 unbeaten since Messi started. And, last game, and I'm so glad I caught this. And I don't think anybody was talking about this. I didn't mention it on Twitter or anything, but Jim alluded to those under 22 players that they signed, Miami, with Farias and the other guy, both of them very, very good. And they have shown it. So, it's just so, this team is so different from the one that we saw before Leagues Cup, that if I'm a 1 or a 2 seed, which we obviously want the Union to be, forget 1 through what get home field advantage. Is it
4.
1 through 4? 1 through 4?
Yeah.
Honestly, at this rate, it sounds like being number 4 isn't the worst thing possible.
No, I mean, I guess when you put it like that, you're right. Because at the very least, you get to the next round and hopefully host again. I think in general, the East Conference is up for grabs. Anyone can beat anybody in this conference. And we had mentioned earlier in the season how deep we think the East is compared to the West. And I would agree. I think any team could realistically make a run, especially if Miami makes it. Then all 9 could really make it. Maybe DC would be the least one I have the one I have least amount of confidence in. If you had to pick one.
Yeah, no, and this feels like you think about, it's literally a month and change that playoffs run this year at this point, or October.
Yeah. Late October to December 9th.
December 9th. That sounds like prime Messi Leagues Cup type of run again. And I keep on saying Messi, and there's more bodies to it. You have Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba. Don't forget about Kamal Miller and Calendar just being another. Well, Calendar looked not so great this past game for Miami, but nonetheless, they're players that made a difference against Philadelphia. And sure, it didn't help that Andre Blake probably had the worst game. Yeah, worst game ever in Union colors. It's kind of hard to even imagine wanting to face him again.
Here's a good question from Caleb Tucker. I thought there's a home and away game for every team this year in the playoffs. Did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, so he's onto something because at some point I think it becomes a best of 3.
Yes.
So isn't it a play-in game and then a best of 3 and then it goes into more of a normal schedule?
It's just unnecessary. That's what it is. It's just it's such a waste of fucking time in terms of just have knockout rounds. There was nothing wrong with the playoff picture last year. It was perfect. It was perfect the way it was, and I liked it the way it was. And they had to make this whole thing. It's almost like baseball, right? There's like that wild card type of position now in the 9th spot. It's so overly complicated when it didn't have to be. So to Caleb, to your point, we'll have to dive into that more because you're right. There was a best of 3.
Here you go. I got it.
Okay.
Seeds 1 through 7 in each conference automatically qualify for the round 1 best of 3 series. Seeds 8 and 9 in each conference qualify for the wild card matches. So yeah, you have the wild card October 25th through the 26th. Then you have round 1 best of 3 matches, the 28th through the 12th of November. Then the semifinal and conference finals running from the 25th through December 3rd, and then finally December 9th. So, Mike, to your point of bodies that bounce early on, imagine being bounced out on October 25th and the league officially wraps up December 9th. That's a long lag to be unemployed.
That's a lot of downtime for a player to not be playing competitive soccer until late February, right? Is when the season typically starts. Again, I don't like it. It's too much. It is what it is. To Caleb's point, more union soccer is not a bad thing. I feel bad for these players who are just, their bodies are getting torn apart. And then if they do make a deep run, they got to, restart and go right back again in late February.
You think that you'd think that the players union has to say something this offseason, right? Like, yeah, they agreed to a CBA a couple of years ago or whatever it was, 21, 22, I can't remember. But nonetheless, you think that they would argue for a lot more benefits from these owners, right? Especially running their bodies all the way solely for playoffs from October 25th to December 9th.
Like Jim Liner says, it is a long season. It's a lot for us to cover in general. Dave, I know you had joked about me on Twitter. You said, hey, it was kind of nice not having a union game this Saturday. It was kind of nice to take a break. Because even for us as reporters with massive air quotes, it's a lot. It's like a full-time job for us. I can't imagine how it is for these players training as much as they are.
Yeah, I think again, going from my head, I think so essentially to the wild. So you have the playing games, which is just straight knockout, and you have the wildcard games, which is straight knockout, and then the equivalent of like the divisional round, if you want to call it, or is where you have the best of three, and that could be where the nightmare comes, really. Because depending on where Miami comes, if you can get through that first round, you could very well play Miami in the best of three series.
Oh, God. And
imagine how pissed you'd be if the Union were to win that first game.
Imagine, but how great would it be if we knocked Messi out of the playoffs? Because so I remember, I forget who I was talking to. I think it might have been Paul and me, one of our Union friends. It was like, are we afraid to bring Messi to Philly? I said, no, I'm not afraid of them, but I just know how the Union history works. The only reason why we got knocked out of this playoff tournament is because the greatest player in the world just happened to be in Chester at the same exact time. It is so Union for us to lose that way.
Can you imagine bringing the circus twice on a playoff atmosphere both of those times?
No.
Well, potentially twice, right? Win at home, lose away, bring them back at home. Like, can you fathom like what we experienced, Mike? But twice in like whatever. How long is that? Is 28th? I'm guessing first game, following week, early November, second game out in Miami if we have home field advantage, and then November 12th or whatever, having the final best of three game, having that circus all within 3 weeks.
That just means Alex Windley will be on our show 3 times. That's it. She'll be the first guest to ever be on our show 5 times in one season.
No, I just can't fathom. Yeah, that's exactly what it would mean. But I just can't fathom that the circus. And again, I think we need to give a big shout out, the three of us, and Dave, you maybe haven't experienced it as much as we are, but just how rock solid the Union PR team is, right? And ensuring that independent, coverage like ours is sort of in the forefront and being accepted and being allowed to do what we do. And especially when I'm sure there's big dogs that try to show up to the Miami game and we're turned away to not the official press box, but rather somewhere else. So just again, another big shout out to the PR team.
Yeah, no, they do a great job. Jillian Almany from the One Team We Agree On says, and we all know Miami is going to make the playoffs. It's scripted. Please no Messi circus in Philly again. It is scripted. That's what's going to happen.
As Jillian said in her show today, I hope that we get Philly and we throttle them. That was a very aggressive way that she described one team beating another. I never heard that before. Throttling somebody.
Beat the shit. Listen, I like it. I like the mentality.
Sounds dirty.
Yeah, you just got to beat the shit out of them. I love it.
Should I go to my wife and be like, can you please throttle me?
And now the show has turned to the after hours across the pitch. So we have our points prediction for this next month of September. It's not really too optimistic. Let's do real quick. We'll do goal score prediction for Saturday, and then we're going to do a quick wrap up of the show. Dave, score against Cincinnati.
I'll go 1-1.
I can live with that. Okay.
As I said, I could very much see it being 1 win, 3 draws, one loss.
I do. Goal scorer, Dave?
Okay.
That's
a tough one. Probably Carranza. I think Carranza will pop up one.
I think he's gonna get hot with this boot race.
So we have Caleb saying 2-1 Union. Caleb says, "Amen. I want Miami again." That's I love the comments tonight, guys. I appreciate that.
Dude,
So Jose,
she's throttling teams.
yeah, right. Yeah, Jose, what's your score prediction for Saturday?
I think it's I don't know. I'll have to watch some more Cincinnati matches and maybe do some more research. But I reckon that Cincinnati's a very different team without Lucho Acosta. So I actually think that we might get away with a 2-1 win, and Carranza bags one, and then I think we'll see a late sub, maybe 60th minute sub, and see Ty come in and maybe put a header in, something that we've needed from our strikers for a long time.
So we got.
I wouldn't discount a header from Lowe either.
Yeah, we got 2-1. Caleb agrees with you as well. Jim Leinert says 3-1. You know, I just want to see consistency from our players, because we saw Glessens have a great game and then have a poor game, then have a great game. We've seen Lowe go back and forth. We've seen Uwa play much better recently, but, you know, still not getting the back of the net as often as we probably want. Kyle says, rather, just get 3 points. And I'm going to agree with him. Just get 3 points. Just get a win. I don't know why, guys. I'm going to go 1-0. I think we pull out a shutout against Cincinnati, and we get the win, and you're going to have Uwa's going to score. I like that. I like the way he's been playing recently, so I'll take it. And then he says, we got a hot take here. He says, start Baribo and bench our waste of money. There you go. I'm fine with starting Baribo as well. I like the way he looked against the Red Bulls in that brief stint. So
he was working.
He was working, man. And you saw him trying to lead players a bit. Like, I know he tried to lead the ball to Quinn Sullivan, and it felt like Quinn was almost a little bit behind too. I think it was mentioned online somewhere that, you know, Ty's definitely getting his form going. Still needs some finishing touches there on his game. So now let's wrap up the show real quick with those sponsors. We have a new set of sponsors now, so look out. No more. Actually, no.
Doan Distillery.
Yeah, no more Doan Distillery. We have AllState now. So we have AllState Insurance Agency-Debora Sigler, who's a 6M50 Iroquis Trail number 3 in Allentown, PA. Specializing in auto, home, renters, life, and much more. Get a quote today by calling 610-395-6100. We have our old faithful Vinny's Pizza. Discover a new favorite by trying the top pizzas in Allentown, plus pasta, salads, calzones, sandwiches, and more. Check out their menu at vinny'spizzarestaurant.com. We have Dave's favorite Stuffed to the Grills, offering a unique twist on a traditional sandwich shop. They have homemade hot and cold sandwiches, salads, appetizers, and baked goods available for all events at stufftothegrills.com. We have Manscaped, 20% off by using the code AAT Sports at manscaped.com. I promise we are not going to play that commercial for you tonight, as much as Jose wants to see it again. And Philly Sports Trips joins us in New York or Washington. Secure your spot at phillysportstrip.com and select Allentown Pickup at checkout. And that is our sponsor read, short, sweet, and to the point. We got a couple more comments, and we'll do our final thoughts here. Uwa is due for a great game. Excited to see more of Ty. I agree, Jillian. I think Uwa is due for that brace of a game. And then Caleb says it was great watching him play off the other attackers because our forwards struggle with that now. And I agree with that as well. Now, guys, final thought here, and we'll wrap up the show, which is actually under an hour. Thanks. Appreciate it. For once. Go ahead, Dave. Your final thought?
I think it's a big game this weekend. I think it could be a big indication of how serious the Union could become playoff time. So I think there's no doubt the Union will be in the playoffs. I think the big question now is where they'll be seeded. I'm not sure. Does the second seed get the bye?
Is there a bye now with the new buy-in round or the playing round?
Dude, this is we're playing Apple's game now, so I'm not sure.
Apparently, one of our commenters probably knows, so I'm sure they can fill in. But go ahead, Dave. Finish your thought.
Yeah. So where's Valerie? We need to.
Yeah, right. Where's Val?
Yeah, I think again this could be a good indication to see how this team is going to compete in the playoffs again. It's the Union have been in and around that pack, but they've been too inconsistent to really take advantage. We've been screaming from the rooftops. It's been so inconsistent, especially when opportunities have opened up for them. This probably is the sort of game they'll go out and win, especially with how big the gap is now. They'll probably go out and win and lose in Charlotte, which is the way that the Union season has gone. But yeah, I think this will be a good indicator, especially if they get a home playoff game or two. It could be a very, very big indicator of how the rest of the playoffs and the rest of this season, the postseason could go for the Union.
Absolutely, Jose. Your final thought?
Yeah, I think Saturday's going to be very telling, right? And sort of the power struggle here in the East and who could be top dog, right? And maybe I'm overlooking New England, but they're sort of self-imploding with selling their starting goalkeeper and now everything with Bruce Arena. And congrats to Tom Bogert and Pablo Iglesias for their reporting and all of that and just following a lead and making a very, very good story out of it, informing us. But I think it'll be a good game. I hope that the Union faithful are all in tune and realizing that this is a very, very important game, and this should be honestly treated more as a rivalry than I think New York Red Bull should ever be anymore. So I hope that the stadium's packed, and I feel like it will be. And again, just a final thank you to everybody who's been interacting with our content or my content specifically to be to get the news and be fully credentialed even on field for the Mexico and Germany game is awesome. So I'm really excited to be at the link on October 17th and just follow my Twitter, Jose R. Nunez. Yeah, I have my Z in there. Nunez91 on Twitter. And when October 17th comes, you can get a lot of really cool content from the Mexico-Germany game out in Philadelphia.
I know. I might have to go to that. I mean, of all people, well, the three of us should be going to that game. It should be me. So I might have to get tickets to get to that. Yeah, my final thought is we've seen the Union fall flat against Miami. We've seen them fall flat at Toronto, and it feels like they just haven't kicked it up to the next level. Against Red Bull, we finally saw that. We finally saw that killer mentality that we've been dying to see, that I've been preaching for. I've been wanting to throttle teams left and right. It just hasn't happened yet. So I just want to see the Union turn it on. Finally, like, this is the final push. Play through your wounds. Try to stay healthy. Just get to the finish line. If you can make the playoffs, I think you'll be okay, as long as you're hosting. If you have to travel too much, I think the Union, unfortunately, end their season a little bit earlier. So my final thought is just go out there and kick some ass. That's it, man. We've been getting all these talks from Cincinnati being the better team this year. That, they're no longer just our little baby cousin now. So just shut them the hell up and send them back home. But that's across the pitch. We're on live every Monday night at 8:45 p.m. You can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Dave, that's Dave GFC Miller. Jose Nunez, Jose R. Nunez 91. Again, Embraer 1323. Happy Monday night, guys. Go Union.
See you at the tailgate.
So yeah, I'll be there.